Hi, I'm Dr. Christina Conolly, and welcome again to our new MCPS video series, Waymaking. We will be covering a variety of mental health and social-emotional topics in this series. Our goal is to help students and families make their way through many of the emotional challenges we are faced with today. I have with me today Uma, who is a sophomore at Richard Montgomery High School, and Dr. Todd Savage, who is a school psychologist and the past president of the National Association of School Psychologists. We are going to be discussing concerns in the LGBTQ plus community during the pandemic from the student perspective. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So my first question is for Uma, and that is, so what are some of the concerns within the LGBTQ plus student community during the pandemic?
Well, I think like for every student, regardless of their sexual or gender identity, this is a very new normal for all of us with a lot of stress. We're all in isolated circumstances where we have less access to the safe space that school can sometimes be, and we have less opportunities to interact with people who make us feel safe and also to seek resources. This is especially true for LGBTQ plus students who often are in home environments where their gender identity or their sexual identity is not supported. And so we see often that this has created a spike in mental health issues among the LGBTQ plus community, especially among youth, for feeling unsafe and feeling as though there's nowhere really to go to for resources or opportunities to protect one's mental health.
All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. Appreciate that. And so then my next question is for Todd. What are resources that are available to students during this time?
Sure, there are a number of resources out there right now for students and for families as well, if there are families that are looking for support as well. In terms of some general resources for students, the Trevor Project at trevorproject.org is a really good resource. There's all sorts of support handouts there, supportive people. They have a number of helplines as well as virtual spaces for students to connect with one another, to feel less isolated, to feel more supported. And if students are struggling, as Uma mentioned, perhaps with some mental health issues or other struggles, Trevor Project has a number of things like there's a hotline and there's also a text line. So if students are worried about themselves, their mental health, maybe some of their thoughts and feelings about themselves, they can text START to 678-678 and somebody will pop on immediately. And I believe that is available 24/7 for them. There's also genderspectrum.org, which has a number, again, of resources for people across the gender spectrum, including youth on the gender spectrum. And there's something called the Gender Spectrum Lounge, where gender diverse youth can gather, again, connect with one another, find support, and feel less isolated there. And there's also support lines that Gender Spectrum offers too. Because just as our gay and lesbian youth are struggling, sometimes our students on the gender spectrum, during this time of isolation or quarantine, they perhaps, for those who are transitioning medically, they may not be able to get to their appointments or have some of the procedures they need. And so they're struggling with some of the health issues that they're dealing with as well. And Gender Spectrum provides some resources to connect those persons in time of need. There's also QChat at www.qchatspace.org, again, which provides support groups as well as just opportunities for LGBTQ plus youth to connect with one another. So there's all sorts of supports out there for students and youth themselves. And then for families of LGBTQ identified plus youth looking for their own support needs or things like that, there's always PFLAG, there's GLSEN and other supports there as well. And I just got triggered for me, GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. Another vital support source there for students has to do with virtual GSAs. As Uma mentioned, you know, a lot of people are isolated at home right now. School is often a safe space for many people, or at least that's where they connect with other people. And GSAs are one place in schools where they connect. And without that opportunity to do that face-to-face right now, there are virtual GSA spaces going on, and GLSEN has a number of resources and a platform to support that.
Thank you. I do appreciate, and it's good to hear that there are a lot of virtual spaces for students to feel like they can connect with others throughout the community. I know Uma, as the president of MoCo Pride, and they've still been having some of the virtual meetings. I had the pleasure of attending one a few weeks ago. And having these resources available, including these school counselors, school psychologists, and other trusted adults that are in your schools are great ways of making sure that you can connect and try to get some of the resources that students need during this time. So thank you. And so my next question is for the both of you. And do you have any suggestions for students to help them build resiliency and learn how to cope during these times?
I think right now we're given a unique opportunity of having a lot more free time than we're used to, especially as students. We all normally very busy lives that are pretty fast paced. And I think especially for LGBTQ plus students and everyone, this is a great time to use time to explore passions and educate yourself about a variety of things. I have so many students who are not LGBTQ plus who say, I want to learn more about this, but there's just such a breadth of information out there. Where do I start? And this is a great time to start, to learn about other communities, to learn about what you can do to help other communities, to learn about your own community's history. I think that builds an opportunity for resiliency and makes you part of a greater community and a greater opportunity to look at your own identity in this kind of pause.
I would agree with that. There's so many other things that people can be doing as well. We talked about virtually getting connected, but there's things like managing one's own stress and anxiety related to the pandemic itself. It's making sure that you're getting access to reliable fact-based information, and the Centers for Disease Control is a really good resource if you're wanting more information about the pandemic itself and trying to quell some of your stress and anxiety around that. But amongst just some of the other general things to underscore some of what Uma was saying is, first of all, don't be hard on yourself and don't judge yourself. There's a lot of shoulding going on right now, and your feelings are your feelings, and it's okay to have the feelings that you have. This is a stressful time for all of us, especially for youth and being isolated at home. So just, be easy on yourself and don't judge yourself. As connected as this generation is, and that's providing a vital source of support and connectivity, it is important too to also find some down screen time. Just disconnect for a little bit every day, just to get away from stuff and to clear your mind and to find some other headspace. Now it's going to sound like I'm talking about the other side of my mouth but also finding those opportunities to connect throughout the day as well, even if it's just a 10-minute chat, you're doing a little gaming with a friend or something like that. So you want to connect, but you also want downtime and to disconnect as well. Uma was talking about the creative outlets and finding calm. And so however you find something to be calming for you, whether it's an artistic expression or music or yoga or just mindfulness or whatever, just finding some of that time to do some of that as well. Get outside if it's safe for you to get outside, walk off a little energy, take in clean air, fresh air, things like that, and get help if there's any need for help, as we were talking about before.
Right, and thank you all. I mean, I know in my communities, we talk about the shoulda, woulda, couldas, and which creates a lot of doubt and questioning and increases anxiety. So, in talking about the shouldas, like that, making sure that we try not to be as focused on those things and like, what should I have done, and trying to focus on the things that we can do can help us to build that sense of resiliency and helping us to cope during this time, and finding these outlets for us to be able to expend energy, which is good for any of our students who are out there who may be struggling during this time. So, and also I know like there's some resources for families, so we'll post them up, and from the National Association of School Psychologists, it has some resources on how to support the LGBTQ plus community as well. They have a new infographic that's out, so we'll put that up in the link for that in the video as well. So,
and Dr. Conolly, may I mention one more thing?
Sure.
I just want to acknowledge that some of what we've been sharing is from a privileged perspective. Mm-hmm. It assumes that people have access to various things. They have access to supportive people. They have access to technology and internet and things like that. We have a large number of LGBTQ plus youth out there of color, and others who might be of lower socioeconomic means. And so while the information we've shared with you is important for everybody, there still may be others out there who may not even be able to access some of the means that we've talked about. And so for those persons out there, families, mental health professionals that might be listening, we want to be mindful of those who may not be connected or may not have access to these same means, and think about more other creative ways that we can reach that group of people and support them during these times.
If I could just echo that, especially for LGBTQ plus youth who are still in contact with their GSAs or other LGBTQ plus leadership, this is a great time to brainstorm ways to be more inclusive and to be more intersectional in your activism and your advocacy. It's a great opportunity to look at different ways to get youth involved and also to get youth more resources. I know it's something that us at MoCo Pride have spent a lot of time working on in a variety of different ways. And so this is a great opportunity, I think, for us to kind of look at our own structure of our advocacy and then also continue that in a way that's more inclusive.
All right. Thank you both. I truly appreciate the insights that you have shared and the resources that are available for our students, and making sure they have the information needed in order to support them through this time. So again, I do want to thank Uma and Todd for your time to be with us today. And we want to thank our viewers for joining us for our new series, Waymaking. Please check out our YouTube playlist for additional videos that we have recorded. To send us additional questions to discuss on the show, please visit the link on your screen. And please join us next time on MCPS Waymaking.